Just I raised this with Mark before, this whole coronavirus thing. I know you've had a lot to say about it. Now Gladys Berejiklian is talking about face masks, and she says, you know, it's high alert, we're at a critical point in all of this. The hospitals have never been emptier. 1 in intensive care, 2 in hospital. What is the agenda here?
Well, it's very hard to work out. In fact, it's impossible to work out because there's no consistency. On the one hand, you've got the federal government saying, let's open up. On the other hand, you've got states... Well, New South Wales recently was saying, we won't go back into lockdown, we want to open up. Queensland were more reluctant. Now the messaging's creeping back because there's 6 cases here and 15 cases there. The population's 8 million.
Gosh, there's 8 million people in New South Wales. There's 2 in hospital and 1 in intensive care.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm not against face masks. They're not a vaccine. Well, people got to remember that. They might help slow
medical authorities,
but...
I have read, say they're fine if you've got the virus. If you haven't got it, forget it, and you'll wear it incorrectly and you won't take it off and it'll be wet and it'll be dirty and won't be useful ever again. But, you know, we're all in it together. You've made a very valid point. Just share this with our viewers. Michael wrote to me about this. We're all in it together. I mean, to anticipate what he might say, federal politicians get $288 travel allowance for each day, get this, they spend in Canberra. New Start get $40 a day. Now, you're saying if we're all in it together, no one's going to Canberra, OK?
What do they need the travel allowance?
That's it.
And, of course, don't forget, it was in 2012. They had that massive pay rise, $45,000 for a backbencher. And the idea was, well, we'll get rid of some of those old whiz-bang schemes like the gold travel card and the overseas study tours and the like. We'll remove those because they're being rorted or not used appropriately, but we'll roll the capital into your new base salary. Well, they can't go overseas. None of us can. They can't travel, gold pass or not. None of us can. So they don't need the money. So why not for 6 months say, all right, well, we'll take 45,000 divided by 2, 22 whatever thousand. We don't need it.
Yes.
Well, we're not going to use it.
Well, just remember that the staff get the same benefits.
Yeah.
I remember working for Malcolm Fraser. I went in one day, there were only 5 of us. I said, PM, do you know that you're not the highest paid person in this office? Oh, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, someone's going to ask you a question at question time, because this is all part of the official documentation of the records, because there were people claiming a living away from home allowance, when in fact, I mean, the living away from home allowance was for someone who was spending less of his time in Canberra than he would be at home, but not for someone who virtually made his home in Canberra in order to collect the living away from home allowance. And this was untaxed. And you multiply 200 days, I think then it was $180 or something, and you look at another 36,000 on top of the salary. Malcolm, I thought, you're in trouble here. But so what we're talking about here is for staff as well. And,
of course, the retinue of staff, it's a Congo line. I mean, they've never had more staff, which is probably part of the problem. But, you know, if we are all in this together, the public sector have to, at least the political establishment, have to make some kind of acknowledgement and gesture that financially they're wearing the pain of the private sector.
It's interesting to know that in Britain, members of Parliament weren't paid until 2011. We're told here they must act ethically in good faith. Just on the sporting front, I'd like to say something about sport, but we've got Michael Carr-Gregg. I think he's at home somewhere on Skype. Mike, have we got you? Michael? Here we are. Michael, congratulations. You made some really important points the other day about sport, where young people are, in fact, rewarded for doing nothing. In other words, there are no winners and no losers. Michael's a very keen Balmain man, so he was rather delighted about the big win they had. What was the point you were making about young children, teaching them the wrong thing, that there are winners and losers, and they've got to learn that early in life, haven't they?
Yeah, look, I'm all for exercise. 24.9% of our 5 to 17-year-olds are either obese or overweight. So anything that encourages them to exercise is great. Under Gladys Berejiklian's system, they all got a gold certificate, irrespective of whether or not they did a lot of exercise. They had this everyone wins participation ribbon mentality, which I think robs children of a sense of competition and some important life lessons.
Yeah, you've said, Michael Carr-Gregg says, the child psychologist, if you create a culture where you get rewarded for doing absolutely nothing, just turning up, everyone becomes mediocre, and that can't be good for society. This is the point, isn't it? I mean, when you go for a job, your mum's not interviewing you. If she was, well, you most probably get the job. It's a competitive environment. How soon, Michael, should we teach our young people that reality?
Well, it's going to vary from kid to kid, but I don't think you can start earlier enough. The problem is we've got organisations like the AFL who've got this ridiculous no scoring, no ladder, no best on ground system. And I've always regarded disappointment as a practice lap for adulthood. We're robbing kids of that. It's insane.
Good on you. Good to talk to you, Michael. Michael Carr-Gregg. But you see, this is the point. People don't listen, do they? I mean, this is the point. Michael keeps saying we shouldn't be rewarding kids for doing nothing. What are your thoughts on this?
I agree with that. But, I mean, you would know from your teaching background, in the old days, you could put a red cross beside 2 + 2 = 5 and correct them that it's 4. Now it's, well, yes, it's not incorrect.
No one corrects it.
Yeah.
No one corrects it.
And how does someone learn?
There used to be a syllabus in New South Wales. I think the words are still there. There'll be no pass-fail dichotomy. So you don't pass, you don't fail. I mean, defeat is a great teacher, isn't it? I mean, winning is important too. You learn humility. You have to be graceful when you win and graceful when you lose. But you learn something out of defeat. Children have got to be taught this early on. Now we say, well, you'll all everyone will lie down on the educational mountain and you'll all be equal. Well, in the real world, hey, they're not, are they?
Well, if only everyone was
hey? How are you with your Balmain boys?
Oh, very happy.
Well, what about Paul Green today? My God, the bloke's won a premiership, 2 grand finals, what?
Well, look, of all the coaches that are on the potential chopping block, I don't know why he was the first to go. But see, there again with Brisbane, why is Anthony Seibold on a 5-year contract? Are any of the players on a 5-year contract?
well, we're going to talk about that tomorrow night because who gave him the 5-year contract? Eh?
Yeah. Well, Brisbane should have a second team. That's the other thing, Alan.
Yes,
how can you have a city with how many people in Brisbane? 2.4 million?
Yeah, something like that.
1 team. Sydney's got 9 teams, 5.9 million.
Yes.
So basic mathematics, each team in Sydney has potentially 545,000 fans.
Just coming back to Michael Carr-Gregg, we can't emphasise enough, can we, though, that lessons learnt by all of us early in life influence our adult behaviour, don't they?
Always.
If you don't have good parents, you're in trouble, and you have no choice of the parents you have. I think Michael's point is teach them early. There's nothing virtuous about winning. You try to win. Banjo Patterson said, a man who's done his best has done enough. And I used to talk about people doing the personal best. Just make sure what you're doing today is your personal best. Unfortunately, if you're like Michael McLaren, the personal best is always high distinctions. Lovely to talk to you.
You too, Alan.
I can see you next week. Isn't he good?